Advocacy group Girls Who Know JA wants the fine for making a false sexual harassment claim to be lowered. The group made its contribution to the Joint Select Committee reviewing the sexual harassment bill yesterday. But Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says there may be some alleged victims of sexual harassment deserving of the maximum fine. Fashion Brown has the details.
The bill proposes a fine of up to $1 million if an individual makes a false sexual harassment claim before a tribunal. Advocacy group Girls Who Know JA says that fine is way too high and could discourage individuals who have been victimized.
An average Jamaican reading that provision would fear that it doesn't make sense for him or her to seek justice, because if the tribunal thinks for any reason that they're lying, then they could be faced with up to $1 million.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck argues that this provision in the bill is to prevent so-called frivolous complaints.
So I agree with you that we may need to assess what frivolous means. You're looking at a situation where, yes, the alleged offender may well have made a pass, for example, and you take it to be sexual harassment, but when you look at it objectively, it looks like a frivolous complaint. And that is for the tribunal to make a determination.
He notes that it does not mean that the tribunal will impose the maximum $1 million penalty for every false complaint.
In all sincerity, there may be some alleged victim who are deserving of the $1 million fine. And the tribunal will have to use its discretion in determining what is the appropriate fine.
Imagine you are sexually harassed, you bring it to the courts, you don't have enough evidence to support your claim, and then all of a sudden you have $1 million fine on your head on top of the trauma that you're suffering. So I can understand the point of a discretionary fine, but for it to be $1 million, it's kind of heavy.
But bear in mind, the fine is meant to be a deterrent to avoid frivolous complaints. So if you make it $5.
Committee member and government Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez said she shared the concerns of the advocacy group.
If you sexually harass someone, the bill says the fine should not exceed $1 million, which is the same as a victim or a possible victim would face. So basically, the fines are equating the two things. And I think that is where the problem lies. So in my mind, because the deterrent has to exist, so if we're keeping the $1 million as a deterrent, the fine that a perpetrator has should be bigger than that then.
We have to strike a balance, because at the end of the day, we have to protect all potential victims. And so that is why I have to also still reiterate my usual point of the legislative process consulting and getting the real persons who have to determine the extent of the damage to the potential victim or victims